I pulled up and I got out. His teacher goes, "What are you doing here, Mr. Pitzen?" I'm like, "Here to pick Timothy up." Oh, he left 8:15 this morning.
Many parents teach their children the stranger danger rule, but what if the danger was closer than you thought? This is the case of Timmothy Pitzen and how he disappeared after his own mother checked him out from school. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I want to take a little bit of time and say thank you for viewing my videos. Much appreciated. Don't forget to view my other videos after you see this one, and per usual, go ahead and like, comment, share, subscribe. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. At only 21 years old, Jim was diagnosed with cancer and doctors told him that he was going to be sterile, meaning he couldn't have children. He then met Amy Fry, which she was fine with not having kids and accepted Jim just the way he was. But everything changed when Amy found out she was pregnant. It was a surprise to everyone, but nonetheless, Jim was happy. On October 18th, 2004, they had their miracle baby. They named the baby Timothy, naming him after one of Amy's brothers who passed at birth. At a young age, Jim described his son as a very energetic and very fun-loving little boy. At just the age of 3, he was riding in a go-kart and doing donuts. Jim and Amy would tell Timothy about the dangers of the world like any parents would do in order to protect their child from danger. They would tell him to not talk to strangers and the typical stranger danger rule. Timothy's kindergarten school, Greenman Elementary in Aurora, Illinois, would make identification cards just in case he ever got lost. But Jim also ordered an Illinois state ID just as an extra precaution. Timothy understood the stranger danger rule at a young age, but in this world, anything can happen even with the extra precautions you can take. On May 11th, 2011, Jim and Amy, who were 39 and 43, woke up early to take Timothy, age 6, to school. Then Jim dropped off Amy at her job, which was a few blocks away from the school, and then Jim went to work. Then, about 2.5 hours later, Jim went to go pick up his son at around 10:30 a.m. Jim got out, and one of the teachers said to Jim, "Jim, what are you doing here?" And Jim was confused, and the teacher told him that Amy picked Timothy up at around 8:15 a.m. So she told Jim not to worry. Later, in school surveillance videos, you can see Timothy walking in the hallway, who was allowed to leave the premises just 45 minutes after Jim and Amy dropped him off. But everyone asked the same questions. Where did he go? And why was he allowed to leave without a teacher escorting him out? And who was he going to see? It turns out that Amy went back to the school after Jim dropped her off at work. She then went ahead and signed out Timothy to take him with her somewhere. It was said that Amy told front desk that they had a family emergency and that's why she had to pick up Timothy. In surveillance video, you can see Amy not frantic or anything. Instead, she was seen calm, waving to her son who had his Spider-Man backpack on, and they walked out of the school. Jim said that there wasn't any family emergency at the time, and he didn't even know why Amy would say that. Then Jim called Amy over and over again, but she never answered. Jim then went home to see if he could find any clues involving his wife and his son. He saw that Amy's Ford Expedition was gone, and he saw that her suitcase was still there, which he was relieved to see that. Jim then called Amy's sister, Kara, to see if she had seen them anywhere, and Kara said she hasn't seen them, and Kara would tell Jim to calm down, and if they were in any type of argument, to let Amy calm down first. Jim and Amy were in fact fighting at the time over a sudden girls trip that Amy had taken and that Jim was not comfortable with. He picked Amy at the airport and he gave her the silent treatment. It was not the first time that Amy has gone MIA in the past, which made Jim pretty mad at her. Amy suffered from depression in the past, so she had to take medication. So Jim checked the restroom cabinet, and there he saw 2 full bottles of Amy's prescription, and there he noticed that Amy had not taken her medication for the past month. Lexapro was one of the prescriptions, and that would help Amy cope with her depression and some other issues in her past. Jim started to get more and more concerned. Jim said that the day before Timothy's disappearance, Amy wanted to take Timothy to school that following morning. But Jim said that he would rather take Timothy to school and Amy to her job since it wasn't a big deal for him and it was really close. Amy would answer, "You don't trust me?" But Jim reassured her that he did. But on the day of Timothy's disappearance, Amy got out of work, walked to Timothy's school, and took Timothy out of school just 45 minutes after dropping him off and saying that they had an emergency. Then they both walked home, got in her car, and took Timothy to the Brookfield Zoo, 32 miles away outside of Chicago, which wasn't even anything new for Timothy. He loved the zoo. But then a problem came up. Amy's engine light came on and she stopped at a repair shop in a town near the zoo. There, the mechanic at the shop offered Amy and Timothy a ride to the zoo and Amy accepted. There, Amy and Timothy were at the zoo. In the meantime, her car was being fixed. At 3 p.m., roughly 6 hours after Timothy was signed out of school, Amy and Timothy went to the repair shop to pick up her vehicle. But instead of going back home to her frantic husband, Amy had other intentions. Amy then drove to a water park called Key Lime Cove Water Park in Gurnee, Illinois. Timothy has been there before and they decided to spend the night there. The following morning, instead of heading home, she decided to take Timothy to another water park, which was in Wisconsin Dells and was 163 miles away. Her credit card receipts showed she had stopped at an A shop called Shopco to buy toys and children clothes in Racine, Wisconsin around 11:30 a.m. At 2:20 p.m., she stopped at a gas station called Quick Trip in Johnson Creek. She then arrived at the Dells Water Park and checked in on the night of May 12, 2011. On Friday morning, Timothy and Amy had breakfast. Then from her phone records, it showed that Amy went back to Illinois, but pulled over somewhere in the Dixon-Sterling Rock Falls area, which coincidentally Amy had secretly visited before. Then she noticed that everyone had been looking for both of them, so she decided to call police and tell them that she was fine and Timothy was fine. Instead of calling her husband, she then called her brother-in-law, who was in Waterloo, Iowa at the time, and told him that everything was fine. He spoke with Timothy himself, and Timothy told his uncle that he was fine, just a little hungry, but fine. He then called his brother Jim and told him about the situation, and Jim asked his brother, "When is Amy coming home?" And his brother said that Amy's response was that she didn't know when she would go back home, and she also mentioned to Jim that Timothy is mine, and I will do with him what I want. Amy then decided she was never going back home. So on the same day, Friday, May 13th, she decided to go to a motel in Rockford, Illinois. And the next day, on May 14th, a motel housekeeper decided to clean Amy's room. She knocked on the door and with no response, she opened the door with her key card. But there, she saw that the door was locked with the chain lock. The housekeeper took a peek inside the room through the small cracked door, and there, she saw Amy deceased and it looked like a crime scene. She stepped back and called 911, but Timothy was nowhere to be found. Police arrived and there they thought that Amy had been a victim of a horrendous crime, but they saw that there was no proof of forced entry, and they saw that Amy left the suicide note along with her driver's license and Timothy's ID card. In the suicide letter Amy had left, it stated that she apologized to the housekeeper for the mess and that nobody will ever see Timothy again, that he was with someone and he was safe. Later, police said that there were no signs of Timothy anywhere, not even the toys and the new clothes Amy had bought for him the prior day. Not even his Spider-Man backpack was there. The only thing left of Timothy was a matching shirt that Amy and Timothy bought at the zoo in order to match with one another. Amy's sister said that this was not the first time Amy had tried to take her own life before. One time, she drove her car onto railroad tracks but then changed her mind and checked herself into a hospital. The second time was when she was dating Jim and she had taken sleeping pills and fell off a cliff at a park. She was experiencing hypothermia and a stranger was walking by and saw her and alerted authorities. Amy also had 3 failed marriages, but Jim knew her past and didn't mind. One time, Jim caught Amy with one of her ex-husbands having lunch, and he gave her an ultimatum, and he said it was either him or her ex-husband, but he was going to get full custody of Timothy. The suicide note towards Jim was not pretty pretty at all. Amy said horrible things to Jim, and Jim said that Amy specified that she was going to hurt him where it hurts more. Police said that there was an alarming amount of blood in Amy's vehicle and no sign of Timothy. Blood was sent for analysis to see if it was Timothy's blood, and they also found grass and dirt on the tires, making them believe that prior to Amy taking her life, she drove to a secluded area with grass and dirt and maybe Timothy was there. Police also did not find Amy's phone in the vehicle, but they did see that Amy's phone pinged for the last time between 12 to 12:30 p.m. in a secluded area the day before her body was found. The day prior to her body being found, roughly 7 hours earlier, she was seen on CCTV footage alone and no sign of Timothy anywhere. Was Timothy in the location that Amy's phone pinged for the last time? Or is Timothy with someone safe like Amy had claimed on her suicide letter? So far, there were no leads, but unfortunately, the DNA testing from inside the vehicle was in fact a match for Timothy. A lot of people claim that they believed that Timothy was there where Amy's phone last pinged. People's theories was that Amy murdered Timothy and placed him somewhere around that area. The case goes cold until one day on April of 2019, suddenly 8 years after Timothy vanished, a phone call to 911 was done from 342 miles away on the border of Ohio and Kentucky. It was a frantic boy saying he was Timmothy Pitzen, and he said that he was held against his will since 2011. News broke out so fast that Jim heard the news from his sister. He was ecstatic. Who wouldn't be after not losing hope in finding your missing child all these years? People found the young man in the street distraught and they called 911. He was taken to the Cincinnati hospital to see if he was okay. The boy said he escaped from a Red Roof Inn hotel. He described that he was kidnapped and trafficked for years. He described them as buff men with tattoos. Officials took his DNA to confirm if it was actually Timothy, but in the meantime, they decided to ask him some questions that only the real Timothy should know. They asked him if he had a family dog, and the answer the boy gave them was an astonishing answer. The boy claimed that he didn't have any dogs or any pets of any sorts. That's when officials knew he was deceiving everyone. Jim said that they did in fact have a dog, but not just a dog, some cats as well, and he said that Timothy adored his pets. The boy refused to even have his fingerprints taken, and finally the FBI received the DNA results. It was in fact not Timothy. He was actually Brian Reaney. He wasn't even 14 like he claimed he was. He was actually 23 and just out of prison for burglary charges. His brother claimed that he was off his meds, so it explained a lot of things. He lied to everyone only because he was obsessed with Timothy's case, and he thought it would be fun to pass up as Timothy and claim all the horrible things that happened to him during the years he was disappeared. Now, what human being would do such horrible thing knowing Timothy's family were still searching for him all those years? Reaney eventually pled guilty to aggravated identity theft and was sentenced to 2 years in prison, then released in May of 2022 to his father's custody. This is nothing compared to what he made Jim and the rest of the family go through during all his lies. Everyone was extremely angry, but never losing hope. A decade after Timothy went missing, Carol decided to retrieve her sister's steps. She went to the field to see if she was missing anything, any clues whatsoever, but there it dawned on her. She saw that this was the same area that her and Amy had passed through a few times before Timothy's disappearance. Kara believes that Amy did a handoff of Timothy to someone she knew. Kara believes that her sister Amy didn't do no harm to Timothy, but instead just giving him away to a loving family. She said that the blood in the vehicle was of Timothy, but he would have reoccurring nosebleeds, and that's what explains the blood in the back seat. Jim agrees about what Kara said, but he feels like Amy was not being truthful in her suicide letter. Police said that they checked Amy's phone and other electronics, and that there were no traces of Amy speaking with anyone regarding any type of handoff. Timothy is still missing, and this is the age progression photo of how he will look now. This case has been unsolved for a long time now, and it's unfair how Amy actually took Timothy without Jim's consent or acknowledgement from the school. Now, tell me your theories down below, and tell me, what do you think actually happened to Timothy? Do you think it was the owner mother that did something to Timothy, or did she hand him off to a safe place? Well guys, thank you so much for watching, and my heart goes out to Jim. Also, please don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Also, don't forget to watch my other videos. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you in the next one.